Hello and welcome to the Rock Your Voice podcast. Vocal coaching tips that will transform your voice, interviews that will inspire, industry guidance, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome. Today's episode is going to be slightly different than the usual. You might find it to be a little bit woo-woo, a little bit out there, but if you know me, you know I am seriously goal-driven and oriented, and I have a lot of very close friends who are always like, it's amazing how well you manifest things. And if you follow me on Instagram or whatever, it's not necessarily manifestation, it's just that maybe I'm just a bit distracted by everything and I want to do all the things all the time. However, there are some big things that I really do focus on. Manifesting is a word that might lose you real quick here, but if you write it down, if you focus on how you're going to make these things happen, and if you really want to make these things occur in your life, manifesting is just bringing an idea to life. There's nothing spooky, creepy, putting it in the hands of anything else. It's literally like, I have an idea. This would be really fun to do. Let's make it happen. And I have a book that I fill with all of these big, grandiose ideas that are sometimes a little bit out there, a little bit crazy. And then I come and I'll take time to look back in that book. And there are things that I've written down that at the time I was like, I'm not sure if this could ever come to be. To the point where I literally drew a picture of a room that was somewhere where I wanted to use as a space to create music and work with other artists as like a community building space, and to invite people in to do like workshopping and songwriting and everything. And then when I look back on the picture of that space, like 6 years later, it was the exact layout of it was called the Piamingo, the little workshop space that we used at the retreat in Nashville. I'm like, hang on, like literally to the point where the stools were placed and the couch was and where the guitars were in the stands. Okay, so yeah, maybe this is a little bit creepy and a bit weird, but if you don't have a clear vision, how is it going to come to be? So today's episode is all about being open to receive, being open to transmit, and just maybe checking in to make sure that you're not resisting. So if you are wanting to plan some really big goals, really big steps, really big moves with your music, it's no good just walking out there and being like, I want to hit the charts at this level, or I want to release this song and for it to be a big success. You've got to define that success. What does that success look like to you? Is it streaming numbers? Is it money in the bank? Is it fans in seats? Is it selling out a tour? What does that success look like to you? And it might be all of those things, but you have to break it down in small pieces. And sometimes you might get to the point where it's like, hang on, I need a team to help me get these small pieces in alignment to create this dream. But if you write it down, you have your goals, you really, really manifest these things, they can come together, and they will come together so much easier if you have a very clear vision of what it is that you want. So if you say, I want success, define success and then break that down another step further. What is that success? How are you going to achieve that success? What does it feel like to have that success? Does it mean you get a new car? Does it mean that you move to a new apartment? Does it mean that you're traveling the world? Does it mean that you can pay for stuff for your family or your parents or what have you? Is it like a financial reward thing? Is it like you can buy groceries, because we all know what that's like at the moment? Really define what that success looks like. And like I said, is it people in seats, filling venues, selling out venues, hiring more musicians for your music, getting a great band together? Make the lists. And even if you have 25 different pages for 25 different lists, that is going to really help you gain more clarity in manifesting the outcome of your goals, your hopes, your dreams, and your desires. Now, I want to talk about receiving. I listened to a podcast today, and again, this is where things get a little bit weird. I mentioned her yesterday. I released a podcast yesterday, and I mentioned Kate Northrup and her podcast Plenty, which is all about money mindset and basically balancing your relationship with money and success. But it's much bigger spectrum than that. And she had a special guest. Hang on, I got to look up her name again because she was absolutely phenomenal. It was Kathy Heller. Okay, so her guest was Kathy Heller. And I'm listening and I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of tune out. This is all getting a bit too woo-woo and a bit manifesty and everything. And then it took a tangent where I was like, okay, this ain't even 6 degrees of separation. This is like literally talking to me. And for those of you that don't know, I was, and again, I don't like to say lucky enough. I maybe manifested this a little bit, but I definitely, it was an incredible opportunity. It was something that I've worked really, really hard in my career to work towards, and has always been in my book to be a coach on something like this. But I was the voice coach for Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock for season 1 and 2. Fingers crossed for season 3. But yes, so that was wild. Like, they reached out to me, they invited me, and I just couldn't believe it. At the time, I was like, wow, it was mind-blowing, and it was such an incredible experience. So anyways, not so much of a tangent, because this is all going to come back in. I'm going to play you what happened when I turned on this podcast today, and why I am here sharing about being open to receive, being open to transmit, and making sure that you are not blocking these things. Okay, this is what happened in the podcast.
I mean, the first time I learned to meditate, I hated it. Like, I flat out, I went
Thank you for saying.
No, it was
helpful.
the most miserable experience. And Lisa Henson, this was an interesting anecdote.
Married
not to
to
name
Jim.
drop. Daughter,
thank you.
That's
Sorry.
hilarious.
I don't know.
I love you so much right now. Number one, what would that make Jim Henson age-wise? Because he died at 50-something in 1994.
Okay.
So that's talking about naive. That's... Thank God, right? Because why should we be up the ass of every famous person and need to know everything about them?
Actually, 90% of the time, I don't know who people are talking about.
Kermit the Frog?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I know you know who he is.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with the Muppets. Fraggle Rock, are you kidding me?
But why
Best
would you
show
know
ever.
he's best show? Yeah.
What's for another day? Down in Fraggle Rock. It's so good.
It is
that
so
was
good.
the first record I ever bought. Literally.
Of course it was.
Fraggle Rock on
That's
a record.
Adorable. The first record I ever...
Okay, so a little bit wild that yesterday on the podcast, I mentioned Kate Northrup for the very first time ever. And then this morning, I listened to this happen on the podcast. And then further into this episode, please check it out. I will link Kate's episode. It's number 81, How to Receive Wild Abundance with Kathy Heller. Because they go on to talk about receiving. And this blew my mind because it's, Kathy talks about, imagine if you have a little receiver radio, which is, okay, now I'm freaking myself out because last night I was actually remembering about this little receiver radio that I had when I used to go stay with my dad. I didn't have like a TV or anything in the room, and it was middle of nowhere in very rural southern France. And for my entertainment at bedtime, once I'd gone upstairs, I would have this little black receiver radio, like could literally fit it in the palm of my hand. And I would scroll through the airwaves and listen to the French radio stations. I learned a lot of French language listening to it, and I learned all about the French pop stars and who was popular in France at the time, and it was really, really cool. But I digress. That's really weird that I was thinking about that, and I vividly remember the first time that I heard Wannabe by Spice Girls on that little black transistor radio, which is a whole other story about being open to receive. Maybe I will loop back to that at the end. But I had this little black receiver radio. Anyways, they talk in this podcast about being open to receive in the sense that if your radio isn't turned on and tuned in, the music is still there. Like, where is the music and what is happening out there when your radio is turned off? But you turn on the radio and you tune it and you dial in to what you want to hear, and it comes through the transmitter to you. So it's kind of a metaphor of just dialing in and being open to receive this music. The music is all happening out there. All of this is happening out there. You just need a way to transmit it and access it, accept it, hear it. And the other thing that they talked about with the radio metaphor is how, say, 98.5 and 98.9 is so close on the dial, but can be two completely different stations. It could be like one could be like a religious station, the other one could be a rap station, the other one could be a rock station, it could be news, it could, but they're right next to each other. So it's what you're tuning into that matters, and being open to receive what is out there coming through to you. Okay, that is my spooky, dooky, hippy dippy outburst for the year. That is my moment. But it really resonated with me, because that is what I have always seen, is that it's always out there. It's just, are you ready to access it? Are you ready to accept it? Are you ready to go for it? Are you ready to ask for it, to look for it? It really, really got me thinking about, you know what, everything that I want out of my life, the things are there to go and receive it. Of course, please do not get me wrong. There are challenges. There are things that hold us back. There are barriers throughout every single person's every single day of their life, some more extreme than others. I understand that. However, if you're not open to any of it, none of it will come. So just really make sure that you're open to receiving. And one thing is to receive without guilt, because that is a big thing that I'm working on, hence listening to all of these podcasts that I've been sharing about lately. I serve, I deserve is what Denise Duffield Thomas always likes to say. But receiving without guilt or assuming that like there's that sort of weird comic tie of like, well, this is really great, so what's the bad payoff? Being open to receive and not letting yourself have limiting beliefs of like, I don't deserve this is too good to be true, because that's just going to shut it down and ruin your joy of it. That was the other thing as well, is to start allowing joy into your life. Enjoy things, like enjoy your day to day, be thankful and have gratitude. We always hear that like gratitude can absolutely shift everything, but have that gratitude about, the crappy gig that you had to drive 6 hours to perform for 3 people for a beer and a cheeseburger. Like, you have these skills, people want you. Like, start to enjoy the fact that you get to do some of these things. Obviously, don't be starting to sell yourself short on that side of the scale, but start to really bring in the gratitude of who you get to work with, who you get to connect with, the fact that you can sit down and pick up a guitar and play a song and write a song. You can do that. And if you haven't done that for a while, maybe you should think about that and be like, I have this skill, I have this gift. And that kind of takes you on to like the shift from receiving to transmitting. So that's taking you from, okay, I have these skills, I have this gift, I should be sharing this, I should be transmitting what I have in my life and what I'm able to do and what my gifts are, to start sharing. If you have people always asking you for advice, if you have people asking you about how to play certain chords or perform certain things or do certain stuff, asking you to accompany, those are signs that it's time to start sharing what you've learned or sharing your gifts, and that will solidify your growth as well. That will boost your confidence. Acknowledge, receive that sign that people are coming to you to know about the things that you know and to learn from you, and just being open to seeing that there's potential for your growth through transmitting, and not allowing imposter syndrome to block you from stepping into that role. So for example, myself, when I finished music school and I was singing and playing and recording and doing all of that, there was a bit of imposter syndrome when it came to teaching. It was like, I'm not the authority, but it was like, hang on, I know how to do this, and I know how to do this well. And it was the skill of teaching that came over time. So the 20 years of interacting with people and understanding how to communicate the different things and the different techniques and styles and all of the stuff that you are able to communicate, as well as understanding like how people must be feeling when they're experiencing the things in the lessons, and listening for different nuances in the voice. All of that stuff comes with over time, but stepping into that role was a big shift for me to understand, the difference between receiving to transmitting as well. So The third one, and the big one that you really need to be aware of, is the power of resistance and how to overcome it, because resistance isn't always bad. Resistance is the body and the brain's natural way. Like the brain doesn't like change. It doesn't like to grow. It actually it receives growth and change as danger, because it's different. You're out of your comfort zone. It's new. So oftentimes this is a signal that you're about to grow. If you feel like that whole sort of leap of faith, you're taking a giant step, it's a big scary move, but you're not putting yourself in physical harm or any danger. You've done the research, you're going to do, say, stepping into a new job, accepting a new gig. For example, Fraggle Rock, I was like, what, me? Huh? And then I realized I checked in with who the people were who had been recommending me, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people really think I'm the right person for this job. And I was terrified. I was really, really nervous. I made the fatal mistake of Googling Harvey Mason Jr., who was going to be one of the key people I'd be working with on the music side of things. And yeah, it was wild, and terrifying, but brilliant. Honestly, one of the best groups of people I have ever worked with and have been lucky enough to have ever met. So take those leaps of faith. They are big. The other flip side, which actually we laughed about quite a lot in the studio when we were doing the Fraggle Rock stuff, is my ridiculous choice to continue in high school versus joining a girl band called the Spice Girls. Now, it's so funny because I'm a podcast junkie and I love podcasts, and I listened to a podcast with Mel C recently, and she was talking about, I wonder where I'd be if I hadn't joined the Spice Girls. And I'm like, I can tell you right now, you would have a field full of goats, a multitude of rescue cats, and you might be teaching singing, because that's what happened to me. But yeah, no, I was at Trinity Studios when they were putting the band together, and they were like, hey, do you want to try out? We've got these girls, we're looking for another member. And I was like, you know what, I just don't have the time and I want to finish school. So derp. So yeah, there we go. That's what happened there when I was not open to receive. And I can remember sitting in the studio that day and thinking, I am not ready for this. That is too big of a commitment. That is a big, scary thing. School is comfortable. Finishing school is smart and safe, which it is. Children out there, finish school, do the smart, safe thing. Research your opportunities before you step into them, but don't shut them down right away. I mean, this was obviously a long time ago when the internet was just kicking off, and it wasn't like I could go Google and research and find more out. It was like, I'm in the studio, do you want to try out? I don't know if I should. I don't think I can commit. So it was a very quick turnaround of like shutting something down that, had I have just said, you know what, let's do it, let's see. I mean, it wasn't like you're in the band. It was like, come try out, see what happens. And because I'm such a sort of black and white sort of way I look at things, I'm like, well, if I say yes and then I get it, then I'm worrying about having to navigate way further down the road, as opposed to just like, let's see where this road leads, which is far more where I'm at nowadays, where I'm just like, let's just see where this leads. Let's jump in the river, let's go for a swim, take me downstream, and let's see what happens. So I encourage you to be a little bit open to that, obviously with the responsible doing your due diligence and research and digging into things and opportunities and stuff, but keeping safety as your priority. But yeah, the body does respond to change and growth and unique opportunity with a fear response, because it's new and it's different, and new and different sometimes isn't always the best thing. New and different often is you leveling up and changing and moving into who you want to be. So being aware, take time, sit with yourself when you have an opportunity. Really dig deep into, am I blocking this because it's a big opportunity, it's a big change, it's a leap of faith, I've got to commit to myself here, I've got to make, I might come out of this as a different person. There's also a little bit of subconscious sort of grief of like, I'm now a very different person here at the end of this change, like old me is no more, better me is here. It's a metamorphosis, which can be an emotional transition. So yeah, think about that. Is that what's holding you back, or is it like, no, if I go put my hand in this fire, it's going to burn and hurt, so I probably shouldn't do it. So, weigh up the pros and cons, but just make sure that you're not blocking yourself. Make sure you're open to receive. Dial your radio. If what you're receiving ain't that great, shift your focus. Go from 96.5 to 98.2 or whatever. Move things around a bit. Don't be afraid to shift and rebalance and reassess, but be open to receive, because that's exactly what happened today. Like I talked about Kate Northrup yesterday. Today, boom, there's another message, and let's see where this takes us, because I'm intrigued. And also being aware of whether it's your time to start transmitting the gifts that you have. Maybe people need to hear what you have to offer, whether that's your music, teaching skills, sharing your songwriting abilities, or joining a community of artists and being part of that active community. Like, their abundance is never ending. Like, if you are growing, your growth is going to support and uplift others. It's not going to take away from anyone else. Growth, like all of this that kind of positive abundance, is like, it's never ending, ever flowing. You are not going to take away from anyone else. You are not going to get all of your luck at one time and then everything's going to be rubbish. So yeah, I'm going to calm down now, because I'm going off on one, but I hope this kind of helps you reframe a little bit. And when you look at other people and you're like, oh, they have everything, or they just manifest things, they have an idea and things just happen. Take time to create your opportunities and be open to receive as well, because everyone deserves it. Everyone can access it if they, if you focus. It's not always like you wake up the next day and there's your message or there's your thing, but if you're not open to it, you're going to keep blocking it. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is a bit out there, this episode for me, but these are things that I truly think have helped me in my growth, have helped me connect with people, have helped me develop the communities that I've developed and be part of something that's really, really cool. So don't hold yourself back. Get out there, go have fun, and share your gifts and your talents, and see what you can receive from others along the way in the most sort of positive, open, sharing way. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. Let me know how you get on. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you do leave a review, it's really useful to help others discover the show. You can also check out the weekly vocal workout over on Patreon. I'll leave the links in the show notes, where you can access weekly vocal training from yours truly and totally rock your voice. Thanks again for listening. Check out Rocket Vocal Studios on social and on the web, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.